Welcome to the channel, everyone. I'm
Yeah.
Nataku, and today I'm going to be ranking every tuning for Froppy. If you're new to the game and want some insight, or were wondering about that tuning build you want to try out, hopefully this video can help you gauge the effectiveness of the different tunings. I greatly thank everyone for 200 subscribers. As a way to show appreciation, I'm going to be doing a 250 subscriber giveaway. If you want a chance to win 13,000 hero crystals, go ahead and drop a like and a subscription down below, as well as comment hero when you're done. If you're already subscribed, don't worry. Just go ahead and drop a comment at the end of the video. Okay, so jumping right into the tier list, as we can see, I have 5 different tiers here. Some tunings I consider good for ranked, but not solos. Some I consider a good hybrid. The others are situational, meaning they're only going to have an effect once or twice in a match, or a certain condition has to be met before it kicks in. And for the don't use section, these are tunings I don't think match Froppy's playstyle. Now, if you see a tuning in here you use, remember, this is just my opinion as a Froppy who has been maining her since beta. So first up, we have probably the best tuning for all Insta-Res characters, and that's Reinforced Revive. At level 11, it will pick your teammates back up to full shield. It's honestly a broken tuning on someone like Ibarra, who can res through walls and has 2 revives in her kit. Next up, we have Iron Fist. Now, I consider this good for solos and not ranked because this tuning works best when paired with something like Embrittlement. Essentially, you land 1 melee on your opponent and it increases your damage for about 7 seconds. Paired with Embrittlement and 2 strike cards, your beta can hit up for a 320 damage combo. Right into good for both ranked and solos, the tuning we were just talking about, Embrittlement. Now, I consider this good for ranked as well as solos because the defense down lingers on your opponent, meaning your teammates as well as third parties will also do more damage. Now, for willpower, I'm going to have to put this in situational. I honestly wanted to put this in don't use, but I know it's a tuning a lot of people use. In my opinion, almost getting down for your tuning to kick in isn't worth it. Now, for Spiraling Leap, this one is pretty simple. It's not compatible with Froppy's already higher than average base jump, so it literally doesn't do anything for you. Next up, Transblow. Now, I don't necessarily like this tuning anymore, as it causes more knockback, making it harder to get off significant damage as Froppy. But for a team situation, it can allow your teammates or a third party to take advantage of the slower enemy. For Sisterly Disposition, I'm gonna have to put this in good for solos. Just like Iron Fist, I think this tuning works best when paired with something like Revenge Assault or Embrittlement. There's other tuning I consider more useful for team battles. That's why this is in solos. Next up for our hybrid tunings, we have Wall Runner. Now, I've personally been loving this tuning a lot recently because it allows you to still have some form of movement when you run out of your alpha. Also, it's very strong for throwing an opponent off guard. Instead of needing to jump in the air first to get off a double beta combo, you can run over any object on the floor or next to you, boosting you in the air for a beta without having to jump. Now, for Divine Protection, this is definitely a situational tuning. I personally don't think it's worth landing on the box at the start of the game, as learning map routes for gold chests is pretty simple due to them always spawning in the same couple of places. I know a lot of people like this tuning for in-game when needing to get revive cards, but honestly, I'd recommend always going for civilian rescues if possible. Now, y'all don't hate me, but you should definitely not be using Coda Finder as Froppy. This is a huge waste of a tuning slot, as fighting for Coda at the beginning of the game just isn't worth it. Like I said before, learning map routes for gold chests is pretty simple, and by the time you finish fighting for 4 levels, there's going to be players in the match with higher levels than you. Next up, Perception. Now, I consider this good for ranked and not solos because tracking in solos is a lot more simple. Also, in ranked, being able to mark multiple different enemies is great for team awareness, as anyone you've marked can be seen by the whole team. Now, in the good for solos section, I'm gonna have to put Revenge Assault. This doubles as a situational tuning because your guard must first break for it to activate, but this works very well when paired with Sisterly Disposition and Assault cards, essentially allowing you to always take less damage during a fight. Now, for high speed replenishment, I'm gonna have to put this in the hybrid tier, tier. I don't personally use this tuning anymore. I did when tuning first came out and you had to use a specific skin for a tuning setup. It's not necessarily a bad tuning if it fits your playstyle, but with reinforced revive in the game and plenty of other tuning combos, I think there's better options. Now, this one might stir people up, but I definitely have to put critical permeation and situational. Not saying it's never useful, but I'd say there's only a handful of times you actually get value out of the couple seconds you don't take damage. Many players are just going to chase you down after they break your guard, especially if you permeate after, and trying to attack out of the tuning will cause it to end. For speedy self-revive, I'd honestly say this isn't useful for any character. Even at max level 11, it'll shorten your revive time to about 8 seconds. But there's probably 1 out of every 10 games you get 8 seconds on the ground with no one attacking you. Now, speedy civilian rescue, I consider this good for ranked. I'd personally never use this tuning, but in theory, it's more useful than divine protection. Right into revenge support, this is definitely good for solos. This one doubles as a situational tuning, but when combined with something like hyper regeneration, this tuning gains a lot of value. Speaking of hyper regeneration, this goes right into the hybrid tier. This tuning combined with revenge support grants some insane regeneration, as well as being effective on its own. I personally use this tuning with reinforced revive and I saw no problems with it. Next up for situational tunings, it's going to be Fixer. Now, I know a lot of people use this tuning as well, but I personally don't think it has much value as it only increases the effectiveness of 1 row of tuning slots. With a lot of Froppy's skins, she doesn't have many great options for these tuning slots. I find Fixer doesn't make much of a difference in gameplay. Battlefield analysis, pretty self-explanatory. I don't think anyone in this game uses this tuning. Definitely ranking as one of the worst tunings of all time. Now, Space Hop, I really enjoy on Froppy. It sets you up for good angles if your opponent is trying to run. Also, giving you insane movement if combined with something like Wall Runner. This can also throw your opponent off guard if you jump right as they attack. Now, I consider Electrification as situational and not a top tier tuning because the stun effect you gain from it doesn't last very long. Only stunning them for about 1 beta attack, as well as having the requirement of physically touching them with your body, not including your tongue. For Dinky's other tuning, Resist Shock, also ranks as one of the worst tunings in the game. Essentially, this tuning lets you avoid stuns from Dinky users only, meaning it will only have an effect for 1 character out of the 35. Acceleration is next up for the hybrid tier. Very solid tuning all around. After landing a melee attack, you gain extra speed for a set amount of time. Amazing for movement as it allows you to go a lot faster, as well as making your attacks go off faster. A minor buff it also grants is drinking all of your potions faster. Now for GP and HP Sucker, I'm going to put these both in situational at once as they have very similar effects. The minor replenishment from the tuning isn't very significant. Again, strong in theory, but Froppy isn't a character that's really downing 5 people in 30 seconds, not giving this tuning much value for her playstyle. I definitely say to never use Indestructible on Froppy. This tuning grants you flinch resistance after you fully KO an opponent. But with Froppy's playstyle, you won't ever see real benefit from this. As well as having the requirement of fully downing an opponent, you can go a whole match without it ever activating. Now, Ability Manifest. I love this tuning. I used it for a very long time as I find it one of the strongest tunings in the game. Essentially, it makes your enhancement cards last longer. So you basically never have a level 1 card. If you manage to get a level 9 enhancement card, this tuning at level 11 will allow it to last for 210 seconds. For Booming PU Voice, I'm actually going to have this in situational. Whenever you activate Plus Ultra, anyone around you will be affected by Present Mic's deafening. This will 100% rarely come in handy, but when it does, it has value. Another easy addition to don't use is Resist Cold. Just like Resist Shock, this tuning only applies to a certain amount of characters, giving it little to no value. Quirk Factor Release is going to be an amazing tuning for ranked and solos, and it gains even more value if combined with something like Revenge Technical or Quick Reload. Whenever you break someone's guard, you gain reload speed across all of your abilities. and there's no cooldown on this tuning, so it will go off every time you break guard. Now, for Revenge Technical, this is a very situational tuning, definitely strong when combined with other reload tunings, but with a lot of the tunings that only activate once your guard is broken, it just can't hold up on its own. Now, Symbol of Peace is another tuning that sounds good in theory. It starts your match off with an increased plus ultra gauge, but I can definitely tell you there's other tunings with way more versatility than this. It only has an effect one time per match, making it a waste of a tuning slot. I know it looks a little funny. I apologize, the tier maker didn't update for Lady Nagant's tuning yet. But that being said, Quick Reload is one of the best tunings for Froppy. After downing an opponent with an alpha, which Froppy does a lot, it will increase your alpha reload speed significantly. Very good for Froppy because not only does your alpha do damage, it's your only source of movement as well. Next up, Special Action Reload Boost. This sits in situational because it only comes into effect after downing an opponent. Froppy does have a very strong special action, but with the smaller tuning slots below, you can up your special action reload speed there, not really needing a whole tuning slot just for that. For Plus Ultra Turbo, this just doesn't match Froppy's playstyle. You could easily replace this with Wall Runner to have the same effect the entire match. Revenge Strike is gonna have to be a situational tuning. This can be okay if combined with Iron Fist and Strike cards. But again, any tuning needing the condition of your guard breaking first doesn't have much value. Quasi-Permeation is also gonna top as one of the worst tunings in the game. Only lasts for about 8 seconds once the match starts. It can be funny to open the item box for free essentially, but as soon as you try to attack anyone picking up the loot, the effect goes away. Now for Plus Ultra Power Intensified, this is situational as it only has effect once you're able to Plus Ultra. Honestly, really strong in theory because people really only use their Plus Ultra to try to run away. So increasing the damage gives you a fighting chance. Honestly, never use Resist Heat. Also one of the worst tunings in the game. Waste of a tuning slot that can be used for anything else. Muscle Form is another situational tuning, only activating once you Plus Ultra, granting HP and flinch resistance. In my opinion, this is better than Plus Ultra Turbo, and that's the only reason this doesn't make the don't use list. Next up for don't use is Card Duplication. This tuning only works after you get a KO on an opponent. Honestly, just pointless, especially when you have the ability to find gold chests. As well as, you won't really be using this in the beginning of the game, as Froppy at level 1 is pretty weak. Warpeel is gonna make its spot in the situational section. Really not a bad tuning, but there's plenty of games where you and your team are separated, or you're the last team member alive, rendering this tuning useless. Now, Extra Wind also has to be up there with most useless tunings. This will only have an effect at the beginning to middle of the game before you've maxed out your attacks. Also, with Plus Ultra not being that great of a mechanic to spend an entire tuning slot on it. Compression Magic is definitely situational. In theory, not the worst tuning ever. Carrying more heals is not a bad thing, but this can be replaced with way more effective tunings. Revenge Rapid is a tuning that's just not very good for Froppy. This may be good for other characters, but Froppy is weak, so any tuning that requires your guard to break first just isn't optimal. Full Burn is gonna have to be in the situational tier. Like I've said before, not necessarily a bad tuning in theory, but a tuning that can only be activated later in the match just doesn't compare to something like Embrittlement or Reinforced Revive. Now, Crushing PU Charge isn't necessarily a bad tuning at all, but for Froppy, it just doesn't match her playstyle. Now, don't get me wrong, you can get 10 kill games with Froppy and you might fill up your PU charge twice. But other games, you only get 3 to no kills, making this hit or miss. Now, last but not least, Foundation of Peace. Another tuning not bad in theory, as when you rescue civilians, it'll level up your quirk, but it'll only have an effect beginning to mid-game. Only reason this doesn't make don't use is because you pick up a civilian for the team heal, revive card, and level up at once. That is going to be all for this video. Very long one, I know. If you watched until the end, go ahead and drop a like and a subscription down below, as well as comment hero for the chance to win 13,000 hero crystals.